Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Hotline. If you are obsessive-compulsive, press 1 repeatedly. If you are codependent, ask someone to press 2 for you. If you have multiple personalities, press 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you are paranoid, we know what you are and what you want. Stay on the line and we'll trace your call. If you're delusional, press 7 and your call will be transferred to the mothership. If you are schizophrenic, listen carefully and a small voice will tell you which number to press. If you are depressive, it doesn't matter which number you press, no one will answer you. If you're dyslexic, press 69696969. If you have a nervous disorder, please fidget with the hash key until the beep. After the beep, please wait for the beep. If you have a short-term memory loss, please try your call again later. And if you have low self-esteem, hang up. All our operators are too busy to talk.
Hang up now. Our operators are too busy to go through the nonsense. What's up? Okay. Hey, look here. I was going to bring y'all, I don't know. I just happened to see that and I was like, what? Hold up. Is that Silk? And it's like DC. Yeah, the same era. DC. We're talking about Rayful Edmonds era up there in Northeast DC and from Southwest to Southeast. I'm like, man, these were some of my partners, and I had no idea, believe me. None. I thought Rayful Edmonds was a piano teacher. Little do you know. Right? Hey, check this out. You know what I mean? Story of outlaw out of DC, partner Silk.
Any crackdown because of one man. In 1989, on the streets of Washington, D.C., the city they called the murder capital of America, drug dealers stopped driving nice cars. Not because they could not afford them, not because the police were watching, not because of any law, any task force, any crackdown, because of one man. If this man saw you in something flashy, he assumed you had money. And if he assumed you had money, he was coming to take it.
Come to
not
get it.
Tomorrow, not next week.
Like right now. Yeah. How about that?
Tonight, he would find out where you lived. He would walk to your house after dark. He would lay
never
down
let
in your
nobody
yard,
know where I lived at when I was
in the
in the hood.
grass, behind the dumpster.
Hold up. That's like, man, back in the day, you know what I'm saying? What they say is better to be paranoid than caught up in some backdosh. You know what I mean? But anyway, let me change these banners real quick. All right, because this is for the Copyright Act of 107, Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use, purposes of criticism, comments, and education. Oh, yeah. And we do know how to say education. Don't get it twisted. But before we go there, I think we need to go here. Hold up. It's always good to go here first. You know what I mean? Well, actually, Ali put it, he's speaking for me. Hold up.
The owner's big $1 million making in the white man's world of prestige, who speaks to his people 100% and don't give a damn about the money, being shot, take the title, take it all, and to go to jail tomorrow. I love my people, and I'm not going to sell them out, make no movies, and mislead them and marry blondes, because I'm one Negro who the boss let me come in the council, and the rest of them in the fields catching hell. I'm going to the fields and represent them if it means die. So that's why I'll fight.
Ali was a Black Panther, straight up. Now let's get back to Silk.
In the bushes beside your front door, and he would wait all night, not moving, not making a sound, just breathing, slow, patient, like a man with nowhere else to be. And when you walked outside in the morning, thinking it was just another day, thinking you were safe because the sun was up and people were around, he would stand up, walk straight towards you, close enough to see your eyes, and put 7 rounds in your head like it was nothing. Then he would walk away, not run, just walk.
Most people think this is a real cat. It's actually not. All pets require food, space, veterinary care.
See, once people understand that they mind control the world, they ain't got to worry about money anymore because your mind control it. Listen, you don't know this, but the healthy mind will give you a healthy life. But people let their body and their mind get attacked all day. Right, so that's the problem. The problem is that people won't look within; they keep on looking without for the government to do something. The only person that can do something is you.
After the police arrived, after the ambulance showed up, after the yellow tape went around the body, he would come back to the crime scene, stand on the corner, watch, make sure nobody was talking to the cops. And nobody was. Nobody ever was. Because everybody on that block knew exactly who had done it. And everybody on that block knew exactly what would happen to them if they opened their mouth. He did not do drive-bys. He did not shoot from across the street. He did not send somebody else to handle his business. He walked up to you, personally, face to face, and he did it himself, every single time. I don't play that across the street business, he said. I walk right up and put 7 in the head like it ain't nothing. The biggest dealer in D.C. tried to buy his loyalty. He refused. Hustlers who had been getting money for years stopped flashing in public because they did not want this man to notice them. He robbed lawyers. He extorted drug lords. He hunted killers the way other men hunted deer, patient and methodical, without a trace of hesitation. One of his associates opened his car trunk one day and found hand grenades, sticks of dynamite, a rack of guns, and product. This man kept an arsenal the way most people keep a spare tire. The Washington Post called him one of the district's most heinous murderers. Don Diva magazine gave him a title that stuck, the Michael Jordan of the murder game. And in 2013, Jay-Z put his name in a verse on Magna Carta Holy Grail. This is my Wayne Perry flow. Y'all know nothing about Wayne Perry, though, District of Columbia. Suddenly, millions of people who had never heard of Southwest D.C. were searching for a man who had been locked in a concrete box for 20 years. His name was Wayne Perry. The streets called him Silk. But here's what Jay-Z did not rap about. Here's what the Washington Post did not print. Here's what the streets still talk about in a whisper. The most feared killer in the history of the murder capital was brought down by the one person he trusted with his life, the man he protected, the man he killed for, the man he kept alive in jail when everyone else wanted him dead. That man looked him in the eye, shook his hand, called him brother, and then walked into a federal office and gave them every name, every body, every detail. And the first name he gave them was Silk. Years later, from a prison cell at the most secure facility in America, he said 7 words that I keep coming back to. 7 words that tell you everything about this story and everything about the man who lived it. I am a very loyal man. He was. And that loyalty is what destroyed him. This is the story of Wayne Silk Perry, the man who hunted killers in the murder capital, and the lesson he learned too late about what loyalty gets you when you give it to a snake. To understand what Wayne Perry became, you have to understand where he came from. Not the man, the place, because the place explains everything. Southwest Washington, D.C. Some people called it Chocolate City. Others called it Drama City. Most people just called it what it was, one of the worst ghettos in America. Tenement houses, fleabag motels, rat-infested apartment buildings. And on L Street, in the section they called 203, a stretch of blocks so bad that even the rest of Southwest didn't want to claim it. 203 had the worst violence, the worst crime, the worst of everything the city had decided to pour into one place and forget about. The people who grew up there had two ways out: sports or crime. That was it. No third option, no backup plan, no guidance counselor sitting you
Bullshit.
down to talk
Yeah,
about
these
college applications.
was
You
throwing
either had
down. Matter of
talent
fact,
or you
Silk
had
was a
nerve.
singer.
And if you were lucky, you had
Silk could
both.
throw down.
Wayne Anthony
So
Perry
don't
was
tell me
born
nothing
November
about no
14th,
damn
1962.
you gangster.
He
or
grew
getting
up right
sports
there on
shit.
L Street
Shoot,
in
we had
203
businesses
and
going.
spent his
Matter of
summers
fact, back
down in
then I had
Georgia
my
with
own
family.
business going.
But D.C.
Something
was
else
home.
met Silk.
And in D.C.,
I was
from
still
the time
poor
he was
though.
old enough to hold a
Nobody
bat,
trying to rob
he
or
was the
somebody.
best
He was trying to
athlete
hang
anyone
out
had
with.
ever
Yeah.
seen. Baseball, boxing, basketball, football, MVP in everything he touched. His half-brother Lop gave him a nickname for how smooth he moved on the field: Silk. But here's the thing about growing up in 203. The older hustlers watched this kid play sports, watched him compete, watched him fight, watched how he carried himself, and they didn't see a future baseball player. They didn't see a scholarship. They didn't see a way out. They saw a weapon. They knew I'd shoot anybody, Silk told Don Diva magazine years later. Police, killers, guerrillas. I used to go on robberies with some serious gangsters, but they always took the bullets out of my gun because they said I was trigger happy. Let me say that again. Grown men, experienced criminals robbing banks, and they took the bullets out of the kid's gun before they went inside, because even they were afraid of what a 13-year-old Wayne Perry might do if the gun was loaded.
If you work at a desk and you are constantly fidgeting,
Damn. They took the bullets out of his gun. They said, man, dude is too loco for have bullets in that gun. Oh, make sure they empty that shit out quick. I'm telling you now. Man, I remember when the old school gangsters back in the day, right? He told me, he said, don't shoot him. He said, don't even fire your weapon. Pistol weapon. I was like, pistol weapon? He said, pistol weapon. I couldn't catch the guy.
Silk was 12 years old and had already caught his first body. By 1975, he was hustling full-time. By 1976, he was running crooked dice games and marked card scams on grown men twice his age. The older gamblers took him everywhere because they thought the kid was lucky. He wasn't lucky. He was cheating them. And he was 14 years old. Silk attended Wilson High School, supposedly a place to get an education. In reality, it was a gladiator school. Northwest gangs versus Southwest gangs, riots in the hallways every week, unarmed guards in every corridor because the school couldn't afford anything better. One day, a riot broke out. Somebody shot one of the guards. Police came. Every gangbanger in that hallway pointed at Silk. He insisted he didn't do it. He said the real shooters set him up because they knew he wouldn't snitch, and he would write it out. He was charged with attempted murder. The court dismissed it for lack of evidence. Wilson expelled him anyway. They sent him to Randall High School, where he played baseball, boxed, and played basketball and football. He was still the best athlete on every team he touched. Until one day at practice, he beat his baseball coach with a bat. Not a fist fight, not an argument that got out of hand. A bat during practice on the field in front of the entire team. They didn't just expel him from Randall. They didn't just kick him off the team. They banned Wayne Perry from every single public school in the District of Columbia. A judge ordered him to attend Franklin GED school.
What? You gonna mess with
According
me? I got
to Silk,
that man?
somebody at Franklin
That's
made the
crazy.
mistake of threatening to take his chain. That person did not take the chain. By the late 1970s, school was over. Silk graduated to the streets. Bank robberies at 16. His little brother was killed by police inside a bank in 1979. Whatever thin wire had been holding Silk back from going all the way over, it snapped. It never reconnected. In 1984, a man came looking for Silk. He found him on the street. The man pulled a gun and fired. Missed. Silk didn't miss. He killed the man right in front of a parked police car. The officers sitting inside the car testified it was self-defense. A man shot dead on the sidewalk with police watching, and they called it self-defense. That tells you what Silk's reputation was in 1984. Even the police weren't going to argue with him, but it was still a body. They sent him to Lorton's Youth Center 1, one of the most violent prisons in America at the time. Going into Youth Center 1 was like going into a war zone. The inmates ran the facility. Kill or be killed. Not a metaphor, literal. Silk didn't just survive Lorton, he thrived. He came out in 1987 with a new skill set, a new reputation, and a new business plan. He wasn't going to hustle anymore. He wasn't going to rob banks. He wasn't going to play dice or run card scams. He was going to hunt people for money. And Washington, D.C., the city that was about to become the murder capital of the United States, had no idea what was walking back into.
I'm like, hey,
you need to understand what D.C. was in the late 1980s, because without that context, what Silk did sounds like exaggeration. It's not. The crack epidemic had turned the nation's capital into a slaughterhouse. In 1991, Washington, D.C. recorded 482 murders, 80.6 per 100,000 residents, the highest rate in the United States. They didn't call it Chocolate City anymore. They called it the murder capital, and that name was earned in blood. 482 bodies in a city of 600,000 people. If New York had the same rate, it would have been nearly 6,000 murders in a single year. D.C. was the most dangerous place in the United States, and it was not close. Rayful Edmond was flooding the streets with product. The shower posse was tearing up neighborhoods. Teenagers were dying on corners every single night. The police couldn't stop it. The government couldn't stop it. Nobody could stop it. And in the middle of all that chaos, while every dealer, every hustler, every killer in D.C. was making the most money they'd ever seen, there was one man who was scarier than all of it combined. Drug dealers stopped driving nice cars. Because if Silk noticed you, if Silk decided you had something he wanted, there was no negotiation. There was no paying him off. There was no talking your way out of it. Rayful Edmond, the single biggest supplier D.C. had ever seen, a man moving more product than anyone in the city, tried to buy Silk's loyalty. He dropped loads of supply down to 203. Free product, a peace offering from the most powerful dealer in Washington.
Millionaires never buy new knives, and it's all because of this weird little sharpener their personal chefs have been hiding for years. Now, regular people finally have access to it, and the knife industry is absolutely furious. And that's exactly why Bavaria Blade was built differently. It runs entirely on diamond disc technology, producing professional-grade edges. It's 100% automatic, completely foolproof, works on any blade type, and can sharpen knives instantly, no matter how dull. Just press and glide. One device sharpens everything from
like that.
That's the band, y'all. Alvin Keith on guitar. Fried Funk on bass. Super Drummer Tyrone on drums. Yours truly, Black Lightning on vocals.
Nothing from you. Think about that. The most powerful dealer in the history of DC tries to buy you, tries to bring you into his operation, offers you a seat at the biggest table in the city, and you say no, not because you have a better deal, not because you're afraid of the heat, because you don't want to be owned by anyone. Silk wanted to make his own way.
Memoirs of a Black Panther, real quick. Man, over there in Trinidad Avenue, Northeast Washington, D.C., I thought Rayful Edmonds was a piano player. I was like, I'm trying to get over, but it turned out that the old man, I forgot his name, but he used to play Chicken Foot, something like that. Yeah, I think it was called the Chicken Foot. No, the Pig's Foot. Yeah, he played at the Pig's Foot. Still could play his ass off. All of them lived over in that area. I knew the old man was, jazz piano player, blues, R&B, whatever, you know what I mean? But shoot, I thought Rayful was daggone keyboard player. I'm like, they probably work at McDonald's. You never know who you around. So you better watch what you say to these strangers. Yeah, dig. One of them could be Smooth. Or one of them could be me, and I could be standing there with Smooth at the time, and that's not going to be a good thing. I'm telling you that.
He had a game plan, and that game plan was simple. He would take what he wanted from anyone who was too weak to stop him. He would kill anyone who needed killing for the right price. And he would answer to nobody, not Rayful Edmond, not the police, not the federal government, nobody. Here's what made Silk different from every other killer in the murder capital. And there were hundreds. DC had bodies dropping every night. But nobody operated like Wayne Perry. Most killers are reactive. Somebody disrespects them, they react. Somebody moves on their corner, they react. Somebody snitches, they react. Silk was proactive. He did not wait for problems. He went looking for them. He hunted. One time, a friend had his corner taken over by a dealer from New York. The New Yorker told Silk's boy he could not hustle there until the New Yorker was done. Silk's friend came to him scared. Silk told the kid to go back outside and sell. The kid hesitated. Silk told him, "If I said it's cool, it's cool." The kid went back to the corner. The New York dealer came around the building to say something about it. Silk stepped out of the cut beside the wall and emptied every round in the clip into the man's head. Then he walked back inside and kept talking, like nothing happened.
Damn!
Another time, he made a man strip naked in a mall. Broad daylight. People everywhere. He made them.
What's amazing to me is that we all hanging out. We all hanging out. We was getting our drinks on, getting our smokes on, and I don't know about them, but I'm trying to find the party where the ladies at. Man, it's pouring down outside. I don't know what kind of weather y'all got where y'all at, but it's a good day to be in the studio. Or right there on your living room couch, watching me come through your damn TV. You know what I'm saying?
Man took off every piece of clothing and then shot him right there to prove to everyone watching that the man was not as tough as he claimed. He popped up at outdoor basketball tournaments and gunned down targets in the middle of a crowd. He killed at the lunch rush. He killed with police a block away. He killed on corners where 50 people were standing, and when he walked away, nobody saw a thing. And his trunk. One of his associates opened Silk's car trunk one day and found hand grenades, sticks of dynamite, a rack of guns, and product. This man kept a small arsenal in his car, the way most people keep a spare tire.
Like, hey,
One associate from that era said that when Silk first started taking money for hits, nobody in the city even knew who was doing it. People were saying it was a hitman from Detroit somewhere. It was not a hitman from Detroit. It was a man from L Street who slept in your yard and waited until the sun came up. In 1989, Rayful Edmond got locked up. The biggest supplier in D.C. was gone. His territory was wide open.
Damn.
Every
at least
corner,
taught me how to
every
play
strip,
keyboard
every
a little
block
better,
that Rayful had
I got it.
controlled was suddenly up for grabs. From Harlem, a flashy, smooth-talking dealer named Alberto Alpo Martinez looked at that vacancy the way a shark looks at
Alpo,
blood in the water.
man, they
Alpo
going
was
back.
already famous. He had run with Rich Porter and Ozzie Faison, the three Harlem dealers whose story would become the movie Paid in Full, with Cameron playing Alpo's character. But Alpo had a problem. He had killed his own best friend, Rich Porter, over money. He shot him dead. And Rich Porter's 12-year-old brother, Donald, had been kidnapped for ransom and turned up dead.
Unless it's the
New
bank.
York was burning for Alpo. He needed a new city. D.C. was the answer. But D.C. hustlers did not play with outsiders. And Alpo, for all his flash and all his money, knew he needed one thing he could not buy in Harlem. He needed a killer, not just any killer. He needed the killer, the one nobody in D.C. would challenge, the one whose name alone could clear a room. He needed Silk. There are two versions of how they met. Silk's version was that he wanted to kill Alpo before they ever shook hands. A woman had told Silk that Alpo was putting a hit on him. Silk went hunting. His close associate, Lil Pop, stepped in at the East Side Club and introduced them. Alpo begged for his life. Alpo's version was that he bailed Silk out of jail, and Silk was so grateful he became his bodyguard.
Your phone isn't slowing down with age. Something is holding it back on purpose. Is your phone drained halfway through the day? I know exactly why. There's a 90% chance your phone is already infected with this. There's a groundbreaking discovery that reverses slow performance and poor battery life, and smartphone companies are trying.
Up in here, have everything plugged into the system. Y'all gonna get a lot of content. That's gonna last a little bit long. But I need y'all to help a brother out. People's network, people's social, get a hand up.
The man who made sure nobody touched Alpo's operation anywhere in D.C., Virginia, or Maryland. And business exploded. The Martinez and Alpo, for all his flash and all his money, knew he needed one thing he could not buy in Harlem. He needed a killer, not just any killer. And Alpo, for all his flash and all his money, knew he needed one thing he could not buy in Harlem. He needed a killer, not just any killer. He needed the killer, the one nobody in D.C. would challenge, the one whose name alone could clear a room. He needed Silk. There are two versions of how they met. Silk's version was that he wanted to kill Alpo before they ever shook hands. A woman had told Silk that Alpo was putting a hit on him. Silk went hunting. His close associate, Lil Pop, stepped in at the East Side Club and introduced them. Alpo begged for his life. Alpo's version was that he bailed Silk out of jail, and Silk was so grateful he became his bodyguard. The truth does not matter. What matters is the result. Silk became Alpo's enforcer, his hitman, his shield, the man who made sure nobody touched Alpo's operation anywhere in D.C., Virginia, or Maryland. And business exploded. The Martinez organization moved roughly 500 kilograms of product valued at $65 million through 4 states. Silk was the engine. Alpo was the mouth. Together, they were the most dangerous partnership in the murder capital. But it was never equal. It was never a partnership between two men. It was one man doing all the work and one man keeping all the records. Silk was the one dropping bodies. Silk was the one hunting targets in the dark. Silk was the one making sure Alpo could sleep safely at night. And Alpo?
Silk?
Alpo was taking notes, writing down names, memorizing details, building a file he did not know he was building yet, because Alpo was born with a gift that Silk never had and never understood, the ability to betray without hesitation. Between 1989 and 1991, the Martinez organization left 9 bodies across Washington, D.C. Federal authorities would later allege that Silk was the main shooter in 8 of those 9. Domenico Benson, a Brooklyn dealer who slapped Alpo's wife. Silk walked up to Benson while the man was shaking Alpo's hand, shaking his hand, and shot him dead right there, mid-handshake. Garrett Gary Terrell, a rival dealer in Washington, D.C., who made the mistake of putting a hit on Silk. Silk got to him first. He always got to them first. But the killing that tells you everything, the one that haunts this story, is Evelyn Carter. Carter was Silk's girlfriend. She was talking to police. They were investigating the murder of a dealer named Michael Frey Salters, and Carter had information that could connect Silk to the killing. But here is the twist that makes your stomach turn. According to Silk, he did not kill Frey. A member of his own crew, a man named Michael Jackson, killed Frey on Alpo's orders. Then Jackson went to Frey's funeral and told everyone Silk did it. Evelyn Carter heard the lie at that funeral, and Jackson, to cover himself, told Silk that Carter was the one running her mouth. So Silk, out of loyalty to a man who was framing him, killed the woman in his own life. After a Keith Sweat concert at Constitution Hall, Silk grabbed Evelyn Carter. He stabbed her in the face. He shot her 5 times, dead. Years later, in a prison cell, Silk said the following, "May she rest in peace."
Ladies, if you absolutely love your husband, do this one.
Cold-blooded. Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, make sure y'all stay out of places like this.
Bites, it looks just like wet dog food. You know what they feed the pigs out on a farm? That's what it looks like.
It's nasty. It's nasty stuff. I don't know. I wouldn't feed my dog it.
If they don't like the food, too bad. Don't come to jail. Can I have Chinese one week, Italian the next? What is this, a hotel? I'm going to take away their butter now. Save another $100,000.
Have listened because I stand for loyalty. Killed Frey on Alpo's orders. Then Jackson went to Frey's funeral and told everyone Silk did it. Evelyn Carter heard the lie at that funeral. And Jackson, to cover himself, told Silk that Carter was the one running her mouth. So Silk, out of loyalty to a man who was framing him, killed the woman in his own life. After a Keith Sweat concert at Constitution Hall, Silk grabbed Evelyn Carter. He stabbed her in the face. He shot her 5 times. Dead. Years later, in a prison cell, Silk said the following, "May she rest in peace. If I would have let her talk, she would have told me the truth. But I would not have listened because I stand for loyalty, and my loyalty was with that dude. That was my man, but he was a snake. He killed the one person who could have saved him because he was loyal to the one person who was destroying him. And he was about to find out just how loyal that person was in return." On November 6, 1991, federal authorities arrested Alpo Martinez. Drug charges, murder charges, conspiracy, everything. They put Alpo into a Washington, D.C. jail where half the inmates wanted him dead. Rivals, enemies, men who had been waiting for the day Alpo did not have Silk standing next to him. Who kept him alive? Silk. From inside the same jail system, Silk put the word out. Anyone who touches Alpo will not live to see the outside. Not a threat, a guarantee from the most feared man in the building. Nobody touched Alpo. Not one person. The most hated snitch to be in Washington, D.C., walked through that jail untouched because Wayne Perry said so. Now think about what is happening at the same time. Down the hall, behind a closed door, Alpo is sitting across from federal prosecutors, and he is singing. Every name, every body, every detail, every murder Silk committed. Every murder Silk did not commit that Alpo pinned on him anyway. The man Silk was protecting was the man burying him. The man Silk was willing to die for was the man signing his death warrant. Silk later said he was a very loyal man. He said he did not fear anything or anyone but God. The fear of weaker guys put him in prison. The fear of weaker guys. He is not talking about the feds. He is not talking about the police. He is talking about Alpo. The man who was too weak to stand up and take his own weight. The man who gave up everyone around him to save himself. The man who was weaker than anyone Silk had ever hunted on the streets of D.C. And that weak man's words put Silk in a cage for the rest of his life. December 4, 1992. Silk walked into court expecting to plead guilty to a minor charge, selling product to an undercover police officer, a fine, maybe a few months. Instead, the Safe Streets Task Force was waiting. They arrested him in the courtroom and charged him with the murder of Garrett Terrell in furtherance of a continuing criminal enterprise. December 5, 1992. The Washington Times ran a headline saying, "Suspected hitman arrested in 1991 killing, March 6, 1993. The Washington Post reported a 27-count indictment. Wayne Perry, Tyrone Price, and Michael Jackson were charged with 9 murders, racketeering conspiracy, drug distribution conspiracy, retaliating against a witness, kidnapping, and robbery. And then the federal government did something that had not been done in D.C. since 1971. They sought the death penalty. Wayne Silk Perry was going to be the first person executed in the District of Columbia in over 20 years. The voters of D.C. had just rejected the death penalty by a 2-to-1 margin. But this was federal court, federal statute, and a 1987 law said murder in furtherance of a drug conspiracy was a death-eligible offense. They were measuring Silk for a casket, using Alpo's words as the tape measure. April 1, 1994. The Washington Post ran a headline that said, "Killer cop's plea gets life sentence in 5 murders." Silk pleaded guilty to 5 counts of first-degree murder, naming Domenico Benson, Evelyn Carter, Yolanda Burley, Alveda Hopkins, and Garrett Terrell plus continuing criminal enterprise. In exchange, the death penalty came off the table. Silk told Don Diva that he had not copped out because of the death penalty. He said he lived to die and that he copped out to make sure others did not get life. He said he took the bull by the horns to save others. That was the kind of man he was. Even at the end, even with the walls closing in, even knowing that Alpo had betrayed him, that everything he had built was gone, that he would never walk a free street again, he was still protecting other people. 5 consecutive life sentences. No possibility of parole, ever. They shackled him, handcuffed him, loaded him into a transport vehicle, and shipped him to ADX, Florence, Colorado, the federal supermax, the most secure prison in America, the place where they put the men the government never wants to see again. Silk was 31 years old. For snitching on Silk and dozens of others, Alpo Martinez received 35 years, not 5 life sentences, 35 years, for confessing to 14 murders, including killing his own best friend, Rich Porter. Silk got life for 5. Alpo got 35 for 14. Read that again and tell me how it sits with you. In 2015, the federal government released Alpo, gave him a new name, Abraham Rodriguez, dropped him in Lewiston, Maine. Population 36,000, quiet town, polite neighbors. Nobody knew who he was.
Pause. That just go to show that all my partners, all the ones been around me, were real deals, loyal, and they ain't scared of jack. Wonder, did they rub off on me or did I rub off on them? That was in straight up loyalty there, Silk. No.
Alpo could not leave it alone. He could not be Abraham Rodriguez. By 2019, he was back in Harlem, making YouTube videos, bragging about the old days, riding motorcycles through the same blocks where he had sold product 30 years earlier, throwing away his witness protection like it was a used napkin. October 31st, 2021, Halloween night, 3:30 a.m., 147th Street and Frederick Douglass Boulevard, Harlem. Alpo Martinez was sitting in his red Dodge Ram pickup when somebody walked up to the driver's side window. 5 shots, chest, chin, arm. He drove one more block, crashed, and in his final moments, bleeding out in the driver's seat, he threw bags of product out the window. Still dealing, still hustling, still running the game. Even as he died, he was pronounced dead at Harlem Hospital. Rich Porter's family poured champagne in the streets. The man charged with the murder was acquitted in 2024. The killing remains effectively unsolved. Meanwhile, inside ADX Florence, behind concrete walls 3 feet thick, Silk sits. He converted to Islam, changed his name to Nkosi Shaka Zulu L. He has been in that cell for over 30 years. He will never leave. The man who snitched walked free and died on the street at 3 a.m., throwing supplies out his window. The man who stayed loyal will never breathe free air again. Washington, D.C. recorded 482 murders in 1991.
My friends laughed when I bought earbuds claiming to translate 100.
In 2012, that number dropped to 88. The streets Silk terrorized have coffee shops and condos now. The corners where people died have strollers on them. The murder capital is not the murder capital anymore. And the most feared man who ever walked its streets is locked in a box in Colorado, forgotten by everyone except the people who grew up in 203, the people who read Seth Ferrante's book, and the millions who heard Jay-Z say his name and had to look him up.
Hung out in DuPont.
But here's the thing I keep coming back to. The thing that makes this story different
Now I
from
figured
every other gangster
it out.
story on
That's
the
why
internet.
everybody came out at night.
Silk was not brought down
It's like
by
you
the
can
police.
recognize Silk.
He was not brought
Damn
down
near
by a
jet
rival.
black, wearing all
He was
dark
not brought down
colors.
by a task force or an investigation or a wire. He was brought down by the one person he loved enough to kill for, to protect in jail, to take 5 life sentences for. He was the greatest hunter the murder capital ever produced. He could find anyone, track anyone, wait all night in the dark for anyone. He could read the streets like a book. He could smell danger from a block away. But he could not see the snake sitting right next to him, eating his food, spending his money, calling him brother, because loyalty blinded him. And loyalty, the same loyalty that made him the most feared and the most respected man in D.C., is what put him in that box. I am a very loyal man, he said. I don't fear nothing and no one but God. The fear of weaker guys put me in prison. 7 words. The fear of weaker guys put me in prison. He does not blame the feds. He does not blame the judge. He does not blame the system. He blames the weakness of the man he trusted. And that is the lesson. Not about guns, not about the streets, not about the murder capital. The lesson is this: the thing that makes you great can be the exact same thing that destroys you, and you will not see it coming, because it is not coming from your enemies. It is coming from the person sitting right next to you. Think about that. Every empire has a weakness. For the most powerful black drug lord in New York history.
How about that, y'all? Story of a partner out of D.C., another outlaw. Yeah, what do you say? We like wolves, we running packs. Sometimes you don't even know. Bunch of alpha males standing around. What's up? Yeah, man. And we were always the protectors, and still are. Yeah, man. Hell yeah. Always been on some serious, this kind of thing. Always on that time right there. But don't never forget where you came from. Yeah, man. That's what I'm talking about. Never forget where you came from. Oh, speaking of which, we ain't gonna give them no warning.
No warning, I'm coming deep in the underground. Like TMJ said, I ain't fucking around. Don't give a fuck what they say. I'm coming in politely. So don't play, tread lightly. Justice and me is both blind, see. Didn't come to run away. Stand out the back. Baby. I came to stay. Make a plan for a better way today. I got to get my RPG nation about this situation that we're in. They got me running in circles. Can I get a sip or a light real quick? They're making shit get real big. But no warning, I'm coming knee deep in the underground. Like GJ say, we ain't fucking around. I'm a renegade, never drink no hater, It's just how I'm made, sharp as a razor blade.
If y'all don't mind, hit the cash app on the way out.
Brown man still a bad mother for you. Real, real deal, like something you feel.
I'm about to dip, like I did when I came in your window.
Me. Like the F-O-G-V. If it ever wasn't me, you ready for therapy? They never know I'm a phantom night rider.
Make sure y'all share,
like, people. Project Urban Gorilla. In the struggle, yo. Changing up the game on these lanes. Peak game. Broke off half-crab things. Well, fill up your cup. If that's your thing.
Good, you never know. So hit the cash app, y'all. I'm about to get
For me, I wasn't hit. This ain't no game. You never saw me, cuz I never came. That's them little white lies that they claim. But you know what I say? No warning, we coming, knee deep in the underground. Like GMJ say, we ain't fucking around. Time to stand on up. I didn't stutter. I ain't got to get gangsta up in here and stick up Wild Bill Hiccup. The homies know we got to click up, show enough. And the brakes get picked up. Ain't so tough when the hood rough you up. Shout out to Ice. It looks thrilled, the hood man of steel. We both been lied to. Let's keep it real. I'm Morpheus. In my black power fist is a black power pill. For the resurrection of the mental dead. Like Shabaka said, plug that shit back in their head.
Oh, in the underground, baby. Hey. All right, I'm out of here, y'all. That was the story of a partner out of DC, Outlaw Silk. And I'm out.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country,